What is going on, everybody? Just want to jump on live real quick to talk a little bit about the Steelers signing Alex Highsmith to an extension. A little bit of breaking news happened about an hour or two ago. I literally just woke up and was pretty excited about talking about this one. Um, for those of you guys that have, followed the channel, followed me on Twitter, uh, kind of read what I wrote on All Steelers, you guys kind of know that this was something I kind of expected the Steelers to get done. And it did. So I'm really happy about that. I think the timing of it is interesting. I think Omar Khan's just seeing the way that he's running the organization right now is definitely a little bit different than I think his predecessor, Kevin Colbert. One of the things I like about Khan is, if you look at the Minka Fitzpatrick extension, you look at this extension, both of those got done early enough, well before training camp popped off, which is something that I definitely like. Even the Deontay Johnson deal got done relatively early in training camp, so we didn't let those things kind of drag on. Um, which I'm a fan of, because as they say, yesterday's price, not today price. I think the longer you wait to get these things done, sometimes those things can kind of backfire on you a little bit financially. So, um, really excited that this thing got done. And didn't drag on, didn't become a distraction. We didn't have to worry about if Highsmith was going to hold out or hold in, as you could say. So it seems like a pretty fair deal. Of course, we don't really have all of the specifics yet. Um, this is a 4-year, 60 was that $68 million deal per Adam Schefter. 27.7 million in guarantees and 38 million over the first 2 years of the new deal. Pretty spot on. I wrote an article back in early February and kind of said that 16, $17 million number was what I anticipated them getting him at, and that's exactly what it came in at. Not trying to toot my own horn, but pretty proud of myself for that one. But puts Highsmith at the edge of the top 10 edge rushers in the NFL landscape right now. Of course, there's probably going to be at least one or two new contracts signed here in the next month or so before the season starts. But I think it's a fair deal for Highsmith. I kind of thought the range of outcomes was going to be, there. If he signed for anything less than 16 or 17 million, I would have said that he was taking a pretty significant discount. I always thought that 17 million mark was the fair number based on how he performed last year. And, if the Steelers still feel like they have more to unlock with his game, I feel like that was a reasonable number to get him at. And I definitely think, this is a good deal for the Steelers. Just a little bit about Highsmith and why I think that they made the deal that they did. First off, Alex took a significant leap forward last year. I mean, everybody knows that. Career high in sacks, career high in pressures. He was very good for the defense. I know I just did an Alex Highsmith breakdown a couple of weeks ago on the channel. So if you guys want, I'll link that in the description. But a speed rusher definitely fits their MO. He's explosive off the ball. He can win with the go smooth, speed rip, has that gorgeous, inside spin counter as well. And just the edge position in general is so important with the Steelers defense, right? I mean, we talk about the NFL landscape. It's really important to be able to get pressure with four. And I think if you look at the four guys up front that are going to be playing the most snaps on defense right now, you got Highsmith, you got Hayward, Ogunjobi, and then TJ Watt. I mean, you really can't find too many groups that you're going to take over that one, right? So I think that's really exciting. Um, from the Steelers' perspective, getting TJ Watt back next year, fully healthy and playing like himself, is going to be huge, not just for Highsmith, but for everyone else because of the attention he draws, because of how disruptive he is. But, this gives the Steelers the ability to keep this core up front on defense together for the, significant future moving forward, which is really exciting. So, I definitely think the contract is fair from both sides. I thought that this was pretty close to market value. As always, I do. Anytime a player signs an extension before their last season, you can always make the argument that they would get a little bit more on the open market because that's how free agency is, right? You draft for talent, you use free agency to fill your needs in the NFL. So, I mean, typically that's what leads teams to overpay when you get to that point. So, Highsmith probably could have even gotten a little bit more on the open market, especially next year if he was to have, another double-digit sack this season, which I definitely anticipate him having. So, good deal all around. Just in terms of concerns, I really don't have any significant concerns. Um, there's going to be talk about, paying two edge rushers that amount of money. And I think that that's a valid thing. But I still look at pass rushers as a premium position, not necessarily edge versus interior D line, but just in general, I think pass rushers are incredibly valuable. And Highsmith does that extremely well. So I'm not too concerned about it, really. But, I think from a roster allocation standpoint, you're going to be, shorten yourself in other areas. But I think when you just look at how productive Highsmith and Watt are when they're both on the field, and it's going to take care of itself. The Steelers are paying both these guys to be really freaking good, man. I mean, if you allocate, 45 plus million to one position group, it's really important to make sure that gets significant production on your defense. So I'm excited to see what those guys do next season. And just in general, the other options in terms of what they were going to do, we talked a little bit about those, what they would do if, they couldn't get him signed to a long-term deal. Highsmith's a rare case, man. Like, you don't see very many guys that are drafted outside the first round at the edge position be able to make a significant impact, especially early on, or just in the NFL in general. Like, if you guys follow Brandon Thorne, he puts together a great project every year, the sack score. Pretty much all the top guys at the sack score are always, your first round picks, your Myles Garrett's, your TJ Watts, your Nick Bosa's, your Joey Bosa's, guys like that. And just finding somebody late day two, man, that's been this productive and has gotten better each and every year is pretty rare. So it's not as simple as, oh, we'll just draft somebody else. I've already talked about, I think, some of the stuff with the kind of narrative going on with Highsmith that's kind of went off the rails, but as it pertains to TJ Watt's impact on him as well. But I definitely think that this is a fair contract, man. So I see we got a decent amount of people in here now. Just please, if you guys would, just make sure y'all like the video. Drop me a comment as well. Make sure y'all are sub to the channel. Y'all know what it is, man. All that stuff is greatly appreciated on my end. And I really do appreciate that. So I'll also take any type of questions that y'all have. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the Highsmith contract. I know that's why I wanted to jump on here real quick and give you guys my thoughts. But I do have a couple minutes, so I'll take any type of questions that you guys have about Highsmith, the extension, Steelers, training camp, NFL draft, whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm down. I have a little bit of time. So if y'all got stuff, drop them in the chat. Landon, what's good, man? I appreciate you hopping in here with me. Yes, I'm very glad that this got done before camp so that we don't have to, worry about any of that stuff. But RC, what's good? Zach, really happy with the number we got him at. Yeah, man, like I said, this is a very fair deal. I mean, 17, 20 million. That was the range that this was going to come in at. I think that those guarantees are pretty much going to be the first year of his new contract. That's going to be a guaranteed year. And then whatever his signing bonus comes in at is going to be guaranteed. So pretty standard for the old Steelers model of how they like to do business. So Tiffany, appreciate that. If Pittsburgh signs a slot corner at some point, what are some names you look like? Oh, man. The slot corner market is pretty depreciated at the moment, man. It's definitely not great. I'd have to dig a little bit deeper to get you somebody that I like. There was a name that I heard floated around just from a buddy of mine who could potentially be available, was Nate Hobbs for the Raiders. But I think that their depth is going to cause him to be kept on the roster, even though it seems like he may not be a long-term fit for them or what they look like. So he was a name that I was like, okay, well, maybe if he's available late in training camp, they could slide like a day 3 pick for him. Hobbs is kind of the Steelers type of slot corner. He's a good run defender, physical, not the best on the outside, but he's a decent player. Somebody I like. Gino, What's good, man? Any thoughts on the running back situation in the NFL? What would it take for them to become more valued? Man, that's a tough one. Thoughts on the running back situation, man? It's just supply and demand, and also, the NFL is just such a quarterback heavy league, man. We just know how important passing is on a down to down basis, how valuable it is to winning. Um, and I do think that there's some context that's needed in terms of discussing running back value. If you look at the number of quarterbacks who are good in, I saw this brought up on Twitter. It's a good point. If you look at the quarterbacks that are good in 1st and 10 passing situations compared to the number of running backs that are good in like regular 1st and 10 passing or running situations, it's a pretty comparable number in terms of, there's about 8 to 10 guys in the NFL that are really good about that. But I just think the thing that really hurts running backs is the shelf life. I mean, pretty much after a guy gets, in that 1,200 to 1,600 touch range, their value just goes down so much because they, kind of just fall off a cliff a little bit from an efficiency and production standpoint. And that's really tough. The running backs are obviously upset about that. And I don't blame them because they're spending, their prime years of their career, their early 20s on a rookie deal that they don't get to negotiate. They don't get any say in terms of where they land, in terms of, the team that they play for, the offense that they play in. So I think it's tough. I think a couple of things that I would personally be pushing for if I was part of, the NFLPA, I'd be pushing for more of a broader, maybe contract language in terms of, instead of classifying the running backs just as running backs, classifying skill players just as skill players. So tight ends, wide receivers, and running backs all together. You could classify them all as one group because some running backs actually have pass catching value and get used in other ways that others don't. And I think those are typically the guys that find themselves into this situation, right? Saquon Barkley, I know that's been a big sticking point is, he's thought that the Giants don't value him as a pass catcher, and, his numbers prove otherwise. So I think that's a potential way maybe that they look at it. There's not really a draft way, in my opinion. I've seen people throw out stuff of, we could redo the draft contracts and how that looks. And I don't think that that's a solution because I just think it'll lead to less running backs getting taken early in the draft because you're still going to find a way to get them cheap. And then the biggest thing, man, is I've been a long proponent of this, but the NFL Players Association has got to get rid of the franchise tag. It is awful for the players, and it's bad all around because yes, you're getting that huge amount of money in that 1 year that's fully guaranteed, and that's great in the grand scheme of things. But at the same time, man, if you're a running back, you could fall off a cliff at any given time. So if you're signing that franchise tag at 26 years old, you might be done after that, and I think that you see some people kind of complaining about that. I have no idea why the NFLPA continues to allow that in contract negotiations. That would be the number one thing that I would have gotten rid of years ago if I was them, but they continue to allow it. So, if NFL teams aren't necessarily doing anything wrong by utilizing what's in the contract. So that's a loaded question, man. I hope that answered some of what you were asking about. Like I said, I'm gonna try to get to as many questions as I can. I'm not gonna stay on here too long, but I got a little bit to talk ball, and I know it's been a little bit since I went live, so I appreciate you guys' support on the channel. Ryan, are you worried about the Steelers giving Najee a second contract? I think he'll age fine. Feel like his run style is sustainable. I'm not, man. I don't know. I guess the NFL for me is such a year-to-year league. I try not to think more than a year out. So to me, that's not even something that I'm really thinking about. I wrote an article for All Steelers about, things that Najee needs to do this upcoming season to make sure the Steelers pick up his 5th-year option because, after year 3, the Steelers have to make the decision on that. I think it'll get picked up. I think Najee's going to have a good year. They made some improvements along the offensive line, getting Sayamalo. Broderick Jones, I think he's going to be a good run blocker once he gets into the lineup, which I anticipate is going to be fairly early. And then Darnell Washington, super excited about him, the use of 12 personnel, what he can do on the edge and in space for them. So I'm not really concerned about a second contract for Najee. I would be surprised if Najee was an older rookie as well, so um, I don't know if he would even what he's going to look like. That he's got 3 more years on his rookie deal. If you include that 5th year option, I think we just see what it is when we get there. That's not something that I'm too worried about, though. I think Najee needs to, definitely take a significant step forward this season, regardless, to even make that a conversation. But we got a little bit before we kind of cross that bridge. So for me personally, it's not something I'm thinking too much about. But I understand you guys. I understand it from a fan perspective. Like, you want everybody to stay in Pittsburgh, players that you like, and I'm the same way. So. I don't understand why some people are hating on the contract extension. He just had a career year when TJ isn't playing. He steps up. Are people hating on it? Y'all let me know. What are y'all saying on social media? I don't. Like I said, I just woke up to the news and decided to hop on here, so I didn't see too much reaction on Twitter. I also like to kind of gather my own thoughts on topics without seeing other people kind of dilute it with bad narratives that they hear on radio and bad blogs and stuff like that. But I don't understand why you would be, unless you just don't like Highsmith as a player. Oh, it's mostly non-Steeler fans. I got you. I think a lot of people probably just don't know who Alex Highsmith is. The Steelers have a lot of really big names on defense. You think about TJ Watt, Mika Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward. Those guys get all the national media love. I also think that the Steelers aren't huge fan base, and they always get crazy ratings. But I don't think the traditional, just regular fantasy football guy isn't tuning into many Steelers games because they don't score very many points on offense. So they probably just don't know who Highsmith is. But Highsmith's a good player, man. I think the big thing with Highsmith, too, and I don't know if I said this already, but the $17 million mark is definitely it's definitely them banking on him continuing to get better. I don't view Alex as a top 10 edge rusher right now, but that doesn't mean, and I would be surprised if he got there, but this isn't them paying just for past production or what he did last year. This is them paying because they feel like they still have more to unlock with him. You want to keep like a 26-year-old that's, kind of on that ascending trajectory in-house, which I definitely, again, I completely understand their position there. So, I got Brian. I think maybe signing Golden may have pushed him to get the deal done. Najee may see parallels with what Dallas did with Elliott. I think the Golden deal is pretty separate, man. They really needed a veteran edge rusher off the bench. The thing with the guys that they had in house, Nick Herbig, I think that the Steelers are going to have to figure out what exactly he is. Is he an edge rusher? Is he a DPR, like a designated pass rusher? Is he going to be some type of hybrid? Is he going to move to off ball? I think they're going to start him out at edge and see if he holds up out there with that weight that he put on. I'm excited to see him, but Herbig is not a guy that I think should be playing a good amount of snaps as a rookie. And I just think when you look at, TJ's been, banged up a little bit 2 years ago and then missed a good chunk of time last season. Herbig was not a guy that could come in as a rookie and play, 60, 70% of snaps if something happened to Highsmith or Watt from a health perspective. So they needed a guy that could come in and play a significant chunk in the event of an injury. I also think that there's a lot of value with Golden in terms of his experience. He's rushed from both sides, been really productive, a high motor player. So he's somebody that at least offenses are going to have to account for when he's on the field. And that wasn't really the case last year when you saw, Jameer Jones out there and some of the other guys that they've kind of trotted out there in recent years. That was not always the case. Defense or offensive tackles kind of just got to take a little bit of a break whenever Watt and Highsmith were kind of off the field. So let's see here. The big debate among Steeler fans is spending on offense versus defense. Look, the Steelers are always probably going to be a defensive mindset until something drastic changes. I mean, leadership is pretty much, I know Amar Khan's a new general manager, but he was in the building before, and I think that they're going to keep on with their MOs in terms of building on that side of the ball. The other interesting part of that is, the Steelers have drafted a lot of offensive players recently, right? They've got a quarterback on a rookie deal. A lot of their guys over there are fairly young. They have made some additions on the offensive line to kind of shore things up where they've kind of lacked in terms of drafting. Um, but I think once you see some of these offensive guys come up for new contracts, I talked a little bit on All Steelers, wrote an article about Pat Freiermuth. He's probably the guy that's going to be in extension talks next summer. So once those guys kind of come up for extensions, we'll see a little bit more of a balance. But yeah, right now, I mean, they're spending a ton on defense, and I think that there's definitely an expectation that this defense needs to be really good. I mean, when you're paying, not just the big three of Fitzpatrick, Watt, and now Highsmith, Hayward, guys like that, when you're paying them all, top 10, top 15-ish money, you even think about Larry Ogunjobi has a decent contract. So this needs to be a really good defense. They need to kind of lead the way through this season and be, top 5, top 10 unit. And I think that there's at least talent there. So um, Ryan Alex Highsmith is going to be dominant this year. Yeah, I hope so, man. Hope so. Excited to see. Excited to see that for sure. How do you see Benton used early on? Base nose, rotation guy for Cam and Larry. Yeah, that's pretty much how I see it, man. For you guys that have seen my take on Benton, there's a film room on the channel on Benton as well from the draft season. But I think Benton is a guy that I actually think he's better, probably a defensive end, playing more 3-tech, 2-eye than I do at traditional nose. He's really good with his hands. He's good at the point of attack. Pretty strong dude too. Can stack and shed really well in the run game. Gets after it as a passer. I think he's got better and better as a pass rusher as his career kind of went on in Wisconsin. You see that in the production numbers too. He's gotta get some more of a go-to pass rush plan that's more consistent. But the only thing I worry about with Benton is that they're going to pigeonhole him into this nose tackle role. And with Cam and Larry signed for the next couple of seasons at least, where does his game expand beyond that? Because again, I don't think he's not the traditional, all right, I'm going to line up at 0-tech and I'm going to command 2 blockers so that my linebackers can run free behind me. That's not what Benton is. Like he has some good run defense traits in terms of how he takes on blocks, but it's really one-on-ones that you see those show up. He doesn't have the mass necessarily required that you'd look for in, like a 2-gap type guy. So I'm interested to see how that works out for them. So similar question here about I think it's going to be Ben, man. I think that they want to get him on the field, and that's kind of the situation that they're in. They want to see how they can get him on the field early on, and he'll get some reps and sub. There's, even though NFL offenses are shifting more towards multiple tight end looks, and you may see some more teams get even bigger this season, your 3-4 sets are no longer the base. It's still going to be a nickel league, in my opinion. So still only 2 of those guys between Ogunjobi, Hayward, and Benton are going to be playing most of the time at the same time. So appreciate everybody jumping in. Just another reminder, please make sure that you hit that like video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. All that stuff is greatly appreciated on my end. Just, I guess, while everybody's kind of in here before I get out of here, like I said, I will take any questions for a couple more minutes before I got to hop off and go grab my daughter. Just in terms of what to look forward to for this week for the channel, I've got a Cam Hayward film room dropping, I think, tomorrow. I was going to record it today and post it today, but with the news and stuff, I'll probably hold off on that until tomorrow. Deontay Johnson, I got a film room idea for him later this week. Nick is going to join me on the channel to break down the 53-man roster prediction. We're going to go over the defense. That'll probably drop sometime this weekend. So good amount of stuff coming in the next couple of days. Be sure to be on the lookout for that. If y'all are interested, put some notifications on so that you guys can get notified, or just follow me on Twitter. I always tweet out all of the links on there. So yeah, I feel like this is just going to be a pretty drama-free training camp. We don't really have anything too crazy going on. Hopefully nothing really comes up, but with Highsmith getting that out of the way is really exciting to me. I'm excited to see these guys in Latrobe. So anybody in the chat going to training camp? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go yet. We're still kind of working on some things on my end, but if anybody's going, definitely holler at me on Twitter. Let's see. I was trying to see if any of these contract details will get leaked before I hopped off, but I don't think that that's going to happen. But, mm, mm, mm. But yeah, man. Um, top 10 deal for Highsmith. That's very, very much deserved. I'm happy that he got paid, man. What a story going from walk on in college, back up in high school, third round draft pick to being a top 10 player, paid player at his position. That's freaking awesome, man. So definitely speaks to the development in the building too. The Steelers being able to get the most out of him, and get that premier position taken care of. I'm also excited. That we won't have to deal with any type of noise through training camp. I always hate that. So glad that we're not going to have another situation like that moving forward. But all right, guys, I think that is pretty much it for me. I will check you guys later. Like I said, a lot of stuff coming on the channel this week. I'm really excited to actually get some football started. Training camp, preseason. Going to definitely be going over a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm just ready to start like breaking down film and actually seeing live games being played. I'm burnt out of the summer already. It's hot. There's nothing for me to do. I'm ready to get this football season, even though it's going to be an incredible amount of work or hours for me. I'm just ready to get it started. I'm sure you guys are excited too. So I will check you guys next time. Y'all have a good day. Peace.